Aku, there was a drum no child was allowed to touch. It did not sit with the other drums used for dancing. It was not brought out during weddings, wrestling festivals, or moonlight games. This drum lived alone inside a small shrine at the center of the village, wrapped in red cloth and surrounded by old wooden masks. The elders called it the drum of the ancestors. To strangers, it looked like an ordinary drum. Its body was carved from dark wood. Its skin was stretched tightly across the top. White chalk marks circled its base, and red beads hung from its sides. But to the people of Aku, that drum was not an instrument. It was a voice. The elders said the drum was made many generations before the oldest person in the village was born. Its wood came from a tree that had been struck by lightning during a storm that lasted 7 days. And the first person who beat it was not a drummer, but a priest who could hear the footsteps of the dead. Because of that, the drum was treated with fear and respect. It was only beaten in 3 moments. When a king died, when war was near, and when danger was coming before the people could see it. That was why every child born in Aku was given one warning. No one should touch the drum for play. No one should touch it for pride. And no one should ever touch it after sunset. The shrine was not locked. But no one entered carelessly. Fear was the lock. Respect was the key. In the village lived a boy named Kolechi. Kolechi was clever, bold, and restless. He was the kind of child who asked too many questions and obeyed too few answers. When elders spoke, he listened with his ears, but not with his heart. He did not hate the elders. He simply believed they were too afraid of the past. Whenever other children spoke of the sacred drum, they lowered their voices. But Kolechi laughed. "It is only wood and skin," he would say. "If a drum is powerful, why does it sit in one place doing nothing?" The other children warned him to stop talking like that. They told him the ancestors had everything. But Kolechi only smiled. To him, the drum was not sacred. It was a challenge. One evening, during the season of the New Yam festival, the whole village was busy. Women washed clay pots near the stream. Men tied fresh palm leaves around the village square. Children carried baskets, firewood, and calabashes from one compound to another. The smell of roasted yam filled the air. And the sound of laughter moved from hut to hut. But at the center of the village, the shrine stood quiet. Kolechi had been sent to deliver a bundle of palm leaves to one of the elders. On his way back, he passed the shrine and stopped. The red cloth around the sacred drum had slipped slightly, revealing the smooth drum skin beneath it. The evening sun had almost disappeared. And the first touch of moonlight rested on the drum like a pale hand. Kolechi stared at it. For the first time, he was alone with the thing everyone feared. No priest stood nearby. No elder guarded the entrance. No mother called his name. The village was busy preparing for celebration. And the sacred drum sat in silence. Then a thought entered his heart. Just one beat. It was not a loud thought. It was soft, almost playful. But once it came, it refused to leave. Just one beat, and I will know the truth. Kolechi looked behind him. No one was watching. So he stepped toward the shrine. Kolechi crossed the entrance, the air changed. Outside, the village was warm with festival noise. Inside, the shrine was cold and still. The wooden masks on the walls seemed to stare at him, their carved eyes empty but alive. Kolechi swallowed. For a moment, he almost turned back. But pride is a dangerous thing. It does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers, "Do not be afraid. Prove them wrong." So Kolechi stepped fully inside. He stood before the drum. Up close, it looked older than he expected. There were carvings on its wooden body. Tiny figures of men, animals, spirits, and faces with open mouths. The beads hanging from its side did not move, even though Kolechi felt a cold wind touch the back of his neck. His hand rose slowly. He paused. Then he struck the drum. Boom! The sound did not behave like an ordinary sound. It did not stop at the shrine. It roared through the village like thunder. It passed through cooking fires and opened doors. It shook calabashes, rattled rooftops, and made the festival songs die in people's throats. Every fire in the village went out. The goats stopped crying. The dogs hid under wooden benches. The wind disappeared. For one long moment, the entire village became silent. Kolechi stood frozen, staring at his own hand. Then the drum answered by itself. Boom! Kolechi jumped back. He had not touched it. Boom! The beats on the drum began to tremble. Boom! The wooden masks on the wall slowly turned their faces toward him. Part 4 continues, because the ancestors had heard his name. Kolechi tried to run, but his feet would not move. The cord inside the shrine wrapped around his legs like invisible rope. The air became heavy. His chest tightened. Then the whispers began. At first, they sounded like wind moving through dry leaves. Then they became voices. Many voices. Old voices. Deep voices. Voices that seemed to rise from under the ground. Kolechi. He covered his ears. But the voices did not stop. Kolechi. Outside, the village elders were already running toward the shrine. The chief priest, an old man named Nedi, came with white chalk across his forehead and a staff in his hand. Behind him came the village chief, mothers, fathers, and frightened children. When they reached the shrine, nobody entered at first. They saw the red cloth lying on the ground. They saw the masks facing inward. They saw the drum glowing faintly in the dark. And beside it, they saw Kolechi kneeling, unable to speak. His hand was pressed against his chest. His eyes were wide with terror. On the skin of the sacred drum was the mark of his palm, glowing like fire. Chief priest Nedi stepped forward slowly. No one made a sound. He looked at the drum. Then he looked at Kolechi. "What have you done?" he asked. Kolechi opened his mouth, but no words came out. The old priest's face became heavy. "You did not only touch the drum," he said. "You called the ancestors without permission." The villagers gasped. Kolechi began to shake. Part 5 continues, because that night, strange things began happening in Akko. That night, strange things happened in Akko. Footsteps moved around empty huts. The village bell rang once, though nobody touched it. A baby began crying and suddenly stopped. A woman said she heard her dead father calling her from the backyard. A hunter said his spear fell from the wall and stood upright by itself. Near the shrine, the earth cracked in a thin line from the doorway to the old burial ground. And all through the night, the sacred drum beat softly by itself. Not loud. Not fast. Just enough for everyone to hear. Boom. 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 No one slept peacefully that night. The chief priest told every family to close their doors, keep their children inside, and put out every unnecessary lamp. No singing, he said. No laughing. No careless words. Because when the ancestors were called without reason, they did not return quietly. Kolechi stayed beside the chief priest until morning. He did not eat. He did not sleep. He only stared at his hand, the same hand that had touched the drum. For the first time, he understood that bravery without wisdom can become danger. Before sunrise, the elders gathered in front of the shrine. The whole village stood behind them in silence. Even the children who usually whispered and giggled were quiet. Chief priest Nedi brought palm wine, white chalk, kola nuts, and fresh water from the stream. He knelt before the drum and placed his forehead to the earth. "We did not call you," he said to the ancestors. A child acted with pride. Let his foolishness not become the punishment of the village. Kelechi placed his forehead on the ground and whispered, "Forgive me." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the drum gave one final sound. Boom! And became silent. Part 6 continues, because after that night, Kelechi was never the same again. Finally became silent. Morning came softly over Aku. No one shouted. No one celebrated. The village only stood still, listening to the silence. Then, little by little, the world returned. Cooking fires were lit again. Birds began to call from the palm trees. Children stepped out from behind their mothers. And the elders looked toward the shrine with tired eyes. Near the shrine, the thin crack in the earth slowly closed. Inside the shrine, the wooden masks turned back to face the wall. The red cloth around the sacred drum became still. The glowing handprint was gone. And the drum sat quietly, as if nothing had happened. But Kelechi was not the same boy who had entered the shrine. The pride in his eyes was gone. His steps became slower. His voice became softer. And when elders spoke, he no longer listened with only his ears. He listened with his heart. Days passed. Then weeks. Then seasons. And whenever younger children came near the shrine laughing or daring one another to touch the drum, Kelechi stopped them. He would stand between them and the doorway. Then he would say, "Do not mistake silence for weakness. Some things are quiet because they are waiting." The children would grow still, because they had seen what pride had done to him. Years passed, and Kelechi grew into a man. Then into an elder. And on nights when the moon was full and children gathered around the fire, he told them the story himself. He told them about the sacred drum, about the warning he ignored, about the night Aku did not sleep, and about the lesson he learned too late. So in Aku, the shrine was still never locked. The drum was still wrapped in red cloth. And every child was still given the same warning. Do not touch the drum for play. Do not touch it for pride. And never touch it after sunset. Because fear was the lock. Respect was the key.